Now stop for a moment. Really stop. And close your eyes. Just think. You have 2 times more money than Jeff Bezos. You're not just rich. You're absurdly wealthy. You've reached a level where most people on Earth can't even imagine earning what you make. Now think about one more thing. You're so powerful that the United States government is forced to pass laws specifically to control you. The rules are literally rewritten because of you. That's exactly who John D. Rockefeller was. At the peak of his career, his personal fortune was equal to 1.5% of the total economic output of the United States. Translated into today's numbers, that's roughly $450 billion. Think about that for a second. One single person controlling such a massive share of an entire country's economy. That's a situation with almost no equal in history. So calling John D. Rockefeller just very rich doesn't really cut it. He may very well have been the richest human being in history. And behind that fortune there was one name, Standard Oil. At its peak, Standard Oil controlled 90% of America's oil refineries and pipelines, which meant that nearly every drop of oil refined in the country passed through Rockefeller's hands in some way. And this was happening at a time when oil demand was exploding. Industry was growing. Cities were expanding. Trains, factories, ships. The world was beginning to run on oil. Normally, fortunes this large don't last. History shows us that most wealthy families lose the majority of their wealth by the 3rd generation. On average, only about 10% survives. But the Rockefeller family was the exception. Even today, they remain one of the richest and most influential families in the world, not just through money, but through politics, institutions, and global networks. Yes, a large portion of the Rockefeller fortune was built legally, but there's one truth we all know. Legal doesn't always mean ethical. And that's exactly where this story begins. This is the story of John D. Rockefeller. Today we talk about tech giants, financial tycoons, Silicon Valley billionaires, but long before them. When people thought of wealth and power, there is only one name, Rockefeller. John D. Rockefeller was born in 1839 in a small ordinary town in New York. At the time, America was full of towns just like it, and John was just an ordinary child born in one of them. Looking at his childhood, reaching this level of power almost seems impossible. His father, William Rockefeller, was, to put it plainly, not a good role model. He was a con artist, a fake doctor, a man who sold made-up medicines. His life was full of mystery. Some rumors even linked him to a horse theft gang. But there was one strange thing about him. From the outside, he always wanted to look successful. He dressed well. He projected strength. The family moved constantly. From one town to another, there was no stability, no structure, until 1857. That year they settled in Cleveland, Ohio, and this city became a turning point in John D. Rockefeller's life. Cleveland was a rapidly growing industrial center. Transportation networks were expanding, and most importantly, it was close to the oil regions. John grew up on a farm. He went to school only a few months a year. The rest of the time he worked and played. He was smart, but not remarkable. He quietly completed whatever task he was given. Cutting wood, caring for horses, working the farm, raising chickens and turkeys. No one looked at him twice. He was just an ordinary kid. The only thing that stood out was how quiet and withdrawn he was. His first job was just as ordinary. He dropped out of high school and took a bookkeeping job earning 50 cents a day. For most people, that would have been the beginning of a lifetime of mediocrity. But not for John. What set him apart was this: he saved every single cent he earned. He didn't spend it. He didn't waste it. He waited. Because inside his mind there was a quiet but very clear plan. After a while, he borrowed money from his father. Together with a partner, he founded a commodities brokerage firm called Rockefeller and Clark. The timing was perfect. America's oil industry was just beginning to grow, and Cleveland sat right at its center. By 1863, they opened their own refinery. If you're expecting a classic two partners grew together story, you're very wrong. Rockefeller was ruthless from the very beginning. Just 2 years later, he forced his partner out and bought his share. He continued alone. Then he formed a new partnership with chemist Samuel Andrews. They needed more capital, so Rockefeller approached millionaire Stephen Harkness. Harkness agreed to invest $100,000, but with one condition. His relative Henry Flagler had to become a partner as well. This turned out to be a perfect match. Flagler's organizational skills and creative business mind blended flawlessly with Rockefeller's disciplined financial control and strategic vision. A true partnership was born, and it laid the foundation for a massive industrial empire. By 1870, Rockefeller was already one of the most powerful figures among Ohio's elite. But that wasn't enough for him. He wanted more. At just 31 years old, he founded the company that would make him the richest man in history, Standard Oil. His strategy was crystal clear: not extracting oil, refining it. Refining oil means turning crude oil from the ground into usable products. Crude oil by itself is useless. It's thick, dirty, and chaotic. But inside a refinery, crude oil is heated, separated, purified, and transformed into gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, fuel oil, LPG, plastics, chemical materials, asphalt. So what Rockefeller really said was this: don't worry about finding oil. The real power belongs to whoever makes it usable. That's why he avoided oil wells. They were risky. Instead of gambling on whether oil would come out of the ground, he controlled the refineries. Everyone brings the oil. You process it. That's where Rockefeller's genius truly appears. He wasn't the one extracting oil. He was the one bringing oil to life. Less risk, much more control. He was obsessed with costs. He hated waste. But his real goal wasn't efficiency, it was dominance. He invested heavily in research and development. He bought oil fields no one wanted. He turned what others called junk into gold through technology, and then the dark side of the story emerged. In 1872, in just 3 months, he either bought or bankrupted almost all of his competitors in Cleveland. He made secret deals with railroad companies, slashing transportation costs. His rivals had no chance to compete. Standard Oil became a monopoly. The public hated him. Newspapers portrayed him as an octopus, a monster with tentacles reaching everywhere. By the 1880s, he controlled 90% of America's refineries. But no power lasts forever. Journalists went after him. Politicians came under pressure. And finally, in 1911, the Supreme Court ruled Standard Oil was broken apart into 34 separate companies. Ironically, this became a kind of salvation for Rockefeller. His health had collapsed, his hair had fallen out, his body was weak, he was exhausted and alone. And at that point, a major transformation began. His focus was no longer money, it was philanthropy. The Rockefeller Foundation was established. From that moment on, his wealth flowed into public health, education, and science. Global campaigns against yellow fever, malaria, and typhoid saved millions of lives. The University of Chicago, Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, and public health schools at Johns Hopkins and Harvard were built with his support. The Green Revolution was funded. An estimated 1 billion people were affected directly or indirectly, and the most remarkable part, he gave away most of his fortune. In 1912, his wealth stood at $900 million. At his death, only $26 million remained. Compared to what he earned, almost nothing. But his family? Still incredibly powerful. Companies like Exxon and Chevron trace their roots back to Standard Oil. The Rockefeller family remains influential in politics, economics, and global affairs. In the end, John D. Rockefeller doesn't fit into a single category. He was both a ruthless capitalist and someone who genuinely changed the world. Did he do good? Yes. Did he do it by bending the system in his favor? Absolutely. If you made it this far, leave $1 in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.